my name's Jamie. I'm from APDO and I brought Poppy here at the Discovery Center. We're here to let you guys all know that APDO is open. We are following the strict guidelines that the CDC has put into place. We are doing same-day treatment just like we always have, and parents are welcome back.
Hey guys, it's Miss Kaylee from the Don Harrington Discovery Center, bringing you another virtual Coffees and Cuties. We've got our spooky science with this being October's virtual Coffees and Cuties. So of course we're going to do some fun, scary, but really cool mad scientist kind of experiments. Of course we'd always love to thank the APDO for sponsoring this month's virtual Coffees and Cuties. We're going to start out with our Coffees and Cuties reading Stella Luna. It's one of my favorite books by Janell Cannon. Let's get started. In a warm, sultry forest far, far away, there once lived a mother fruit bat and her new baby. Oh, how Mother Bat loved her soft, tiny baby. I'll name you Stellaluna, she crooned. Each night, Mother Bat would carry Stellaluna clutched to her breast as she flew out in search for food. One night, as Mother Bat followed the heavy scent of ripe fruit, an owl spied her, and on silent wings and the powerful bird swooped down upon the bats. Dodging and shrieking, the mother bat tried to escape, but the owl struck again and again, knocking Stellaluna into the air. Her baby's wings were limp and useless as wet paper. Down, down she went, faster and faster into the forest below. The dark, leafy tangle of branches caught Stellaluna as she fell. One twig was small enough at Stellaluna's tiny feet. Wrapping her wings around her, she clutched to the thin branch, trembling with a cold and fear. Mother, Stellaluna squeaked, where are you? By daybreak, the baby bat could hold on no longer. Down, down again she dropped. Flump! Stellaluna landed headfirst in a soft, downy nest, startled by 3 baby birds who lived there. Stellaluna quickly clambered from the nest and hung out of sight below it. She listened to the babble of the little birds. What was that? Cried Flap. I don't know, but it's hanging on by its feet, chirped Flitter. Shh! Here comes Mama, said Pip. Many times that day, Mama Bird flew away, always returning with food for her babies. Stellaluna was terribly hungry, but not for crawly things Mama Bird brought. Finally, though, the little bat could bear it no longer. She climbed up into the nest, closed her eyes, and opened her mouth, and plopped in dropped a big green grasshopper. Stellaluna learned to be like the bird. She stayed awake all day and slept at night. She ate bugs even though they tasted awful. Her bat ways were quickly disappearing. Except for one thing, Stellaluna still liked to sleep hanging by her feet. Once when Mama was away, the curious baby birds decided to try it too. When Mama Bird came home, she saw 8 tiny feet gripping the edge of the nest. Eek! She cried, get back up here this instant. You're going to fall down and break your necks. The birds clambered back up into the nest, but Mama Bird stopped Stellaluna. You're teaching my children to do bad things. I will not let you go back into this nest unless you promise to obey all the rules in this house. Stellaluna promised. She ate the bugs without making faces. She slept in the nest at night, and she didn't hang by her feet. Stellaluna behaved as a good bird should. All the babies grew very quickly. Soon the nest became crowded. Mama Bird told them it was time to learn to fly. One by one, Pip, Flitter, Flap, and Stellaluna jumped from their nest, and their wings worked. I'm just like them, thought Stellaluna. I can fly too. Pip, Flitter, and Flap landed gracefully on a branch. Stellaluna tried to do the same. And how embarrassing. I will fly all day, Stellaluna told herself. There's no one will see how clumsy I am. The next day, Flip, Flitter, and Flap and Stellaluna went flying far from home. They flew for hours, exercising their new wings. The sun is setting, warned Flitter. We had better go home or we will get lost in the dark, said Flap. But Stellaluna had flown far ahead and was nowhere to be seen. The three anxious birds went home without her. All alone, Stellaluna flew and flew until her wings ached and she dropped to a tree. I promised not to hang by my feet, Stellaluna sighed, so she hung by her thumbs and soon fell asleep. She didn't hear the soft sound of wings coming near. Hey, a loud voice said, Why are you hanging upside down? Stellaluna's eyes opened wide. She saw the most peculiar face. I'm not upside down, you are, Stellaluna said. Ah, but you're a bat. Bats hang by their feet. You're hanging by your thumbs, so that makes you upside down, the creature said. I'm a bat. I'm hanging by my feet. That makes me right side up. Stellaluna was so confused. Mama Bird told me I was upside down. She said I was all wrong. Wrong for a bird, maybe, but not for a bat. More bats gathered around to see the strange young bat who behaved like a bird. Stellaluna told them her story. You ate bugs, stuttered one. You slept at night, gasped another. How very strange, they all murmured. Wait, let me look at this child, a bat pushed through the crowd. An owl attacked you? She asked. Sniffing Stellaluna's fur, she whispered, You are Stellaluna. You are my baby. You escaped the owl, cried Stellaluna. You survived. Yes, said Mother Bat, as she wrapped her wings around Stellaluna. Come with me and I'll show you where to find the most delicious fruit. You'll never have to eat another bug as long as you live. But it's nighttime, Stellaluna squeaked. We can't fly in the dark. We'll crash into trees. We're bats, her mother said. We can see in the dark. Come with us. Stellaluna was afraid, but she let go of the tree and dropped into the deep blue sky. Stellaluna could see. She felt as though the ray of light shone from her eyes. She was able to see everything in her path. Soon the bats found a mango tree, and Stellaluna ate so much fruit that she could hold. I'll never eat another bug as long as I live, cheered Stellaluna, as she stuffed herself full. I must tell Pip, Flitter, and Flap. The next day, Stellaluna went to visit the birds. Come with me and meet my bat family, she said. Okay, let's go, agreed Pip. They hang by their feet and they fly at night. They eat the best food in the world, Stellaluna explained to the birds on the way. As the birds flew among the bats, Flap said, I feel upside down here. So the birds hung by their feet. Wait until dark, Stellaluna excitedly. We will fly at night. When night came, Stellaluna flew away. Pip, Flitter, and Flap left from the tree to follow her. I can't see a thing, yelled Pip. Neither can I, howled Flitter. Ah! Shrieked Flap. They're going to crash, gasped Stellaluna. I must rescue them. Stellaluna swooped about, grabbing her friends in the air. She lifted them into the tree, and the birds grasped at the branch. Stellaluna hung from the limb above them. We're safe, said Stellaluna. There was a sigh. I wish you could have seen the dark too. We wish you could land on your feet, Flitter replied. Pip and Flap nodded. They were perched in silence for a long time. How can we be so different and yet feel so much alike, amused Flitter. And how can we feel so different and be so much alike? Wondered Pip. I think it's quite a mystery, Flap chirped. I agree, Stella Luna said, but we're friends, and that's a fact. Alright guys, and that is the end of Stella Luna. It's one of my favorite stories, so thank you for joining me. And with that being said, let's get started on our experiments. Now, the first one I have for us today is we are going to write our own secret messages. So we can write down what we want to be for this Halloween. We could just write secret messages for our best friends. And this is a way that it's almost like invisible ink, but just a little cooler. So all that you need for this experiment is some thicker paper. I like, and it needs to be white, but it's almost like a watercolor paper. You're going to need a little white crayon. I've got 2 just in case. And then we're going to need a rag that you don't really like all that much and don't mind getting it like maybe a little stained. And then last but not least is we are going to need some watercolors. Now I have 3 colors with me today. I have our green, blue, and an orange. Now what we have to do for this experiment to make our almost ghost writing or secret writing pictures is we're going to take our crayon and we are going to make any kind of design we want. With Halloween, it's going to be kind of a fun one because you can make pumpkins, which I'm going to try and do a funky pumpkin. And then we'll write a secret message. Alrighty. So now that we have our secret writing on there with our white crayon, you'll notice there's a little bit of a trick to this. The hardest part of this experiment to do at home is that you're not really going to see what you're drawing with a white crayon. It's going to be a little tricky, but that's where you guys can get super creative, come up with all kinds of different art to put on these. So now that we have our secret message written on there, we're going to put our paper down, and I think I'm going to start with green. I like green. Green is a good Halloween color. So what we're going to do is we're just going to lightly brush the top of our, oh, that wasn't a very good pumpkin. It was more like a heart pumpkin. So we're going to brush our colors on there, and we can find our hidden text because crayons are actually made of wax. They have wax and pigment inside of them. And wax is what we call hydrophobic. It actually doesn't like water at all. So whenever it comes into contact with it, water will just slide off of the wax. And that's where we're getting these pictures, kind of, we'll do a little ziggy-zag design. That's where, like, you can see right here, even if I just with my finger lightly brush it, the water is not gonna, our watercolors are not gonna seep into the wax just because it's creating a layer that's pretty much making that water slide off or repels that water. So one of the cool things is with this, not only can you write secret messages, you can make your own secret art. And then whenever you give this, say as a birthday present or a Halloween spooky present, all your friends have to do is color the page and you have your secret message. Alrighty guys, so now with our second experiment that you guys could actually do at home, we are going to be talking about polymers. Now you guys are probably really familiar with the polymer used in slime, and that is glue. Glue is whenever we say the word polymer, if we break that word apart, poly means many and mer means parts. So we have many parts and it's usually of the same thing. In the case of slime, you have glue and you have an activator. And the activator actually bonds all of those parts together like a big long chain. And the best way I could think of doing some spooky science with you guys for this Copies and Cuties is to bring out our juicy worms. These little guys not only look super weird and scary, but if you don't like certain textures, they can be pretty spooky in themselves. But one of the main things is these are super fun to make because all you need is something called sodium alginate, which is what we have made our homemade version with this little bottle. And then this is going to be our polymer today. Our sodium alginate is our polymer. So it's going to be the many parts And our activator, which is gonna put them all in one row, is gonna be our calcium chloride. And we've dissolved it into water so that whenever we put our activator in there, we should get these lovely, long, juicy worms that look like you could just eat them up, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with our homemade version, and then we're gonna test it actually against a store-bought version, because if you guys remember, you can do this experiment at home as well. There's tons of science kits out there that you guys don't have to know our secret recipe. You can get the pre-made kits already. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get our polymer, our sodium alginate, and then our activator is our calcium chloride. Now all we have to do for this part is super easy. You put it in a squeeze bottle and then you give it a nice big squirt in there. We're gonna let it sit for about 10 seconds and then we'll give it a little stir. Now as our sodium alginate is in here, those chains are bonding together because of our calcium chloride. Now, if I've waited a long enough time, this will actually get really hard and turn into almost like a little rubber worm. But just barely having it in there that long, look how long our juicy worm is. Now the cool thing is the bonding had taken place on the outside. So if I squish these little guys or roll them around, I can actually still feel the sodium alginate inside that hasn't been bonded yet. So these are tons of fun because you can always joke with your friends and say, oh, I'm gonna eat a big worm. Now, what we're using today isn't food grade, but sodium alginate is actually something you guys probably have had before. If you've ever had a gummy worm, a gummy bear, this is actually the same kind of bonding you see with those lovely snacks, especially for Halloween. The other thing is you can also treat this kind of like slime. One of my favorite pranks to pull, because it's Halloween, right? We always like to pull some fun pranks, is you get a big, nice, juicy worm in your hand and go, achoo! And you've got some jiggly slime snot. So that's one of the really cool things, is not only is our sodium alginate something that maybe we've eaten at some point in our time, but we can come up with really cool science experiments. The other thing is it's actually something made from algae. This is actually a pretty eco-friendly way to have a science experiment. So I always like to put that in there. Alrighty guys, so now with this Coffees and Cuties, one of the cool things is we've talked a lot about Halloween and doing some fun science experiments, but also kind of doing a few little tricks and treats. Now I'm going to tell you guys what I want to be for Halloween is a mad scientist, and I thought what better way of being a mad scientist than showing a really cool chemical reaction. So what I have today is I've pre-measured some hydrogen peroxide in this lovely flask, and we are going to combine it with some bubbles, and we're going to see how big of a reaction we can actually create. So what we're going to do first is we're going to put our hydrogen peroxide into our witch's cauldron, because of course it's Halloween, we got to keep a theme going. Now the next thing that we need is some bubbles. So I've got some lovely soap, and we're just going to put some bubbles in there. Now the next thing that we're going to add to this mad scientist potion here is we're going to have to put some color in. And as you guys can see, I've picked green today, because green kind of reminds me of the ooziness and the creepiness of Halloween. So we're going to add some green in here. And I like to make little stripes on the side, because you get a little cooler reaction. Now this is the part where I'm going to get into the scientist mode of my mad science and explain one thing to you guys. Hydrogen peroxide, more than anything, doesn't want to be hydrogen peroxide. If we looked at it, it would be H2O2. Now that might sound really similar to water. Water is H2O. The only thing missing is one oxygen. So for our hydrogen peroxide in this experiment, we are going to make it throw off one of its oxygens, and we're gonna turn it into water. Now, this is gonna be what we call an exothermic reaction. That means it's gonna produce a lot of heat, and I'm actually using some pretty dangerous chemicals today. So as you guys notice, safety is always the #1 here at the Discovery Center. I'm wearing my goggles, or my gloves, I have some glasses, and I've got my hair all pulled back just in case. Because it's not fun being a mad scientist if you're a burnt scientist. So, now that we have our hydrogen peroxide, our color, and our bubbles, we're gonna use our catalyst. Now this catalyst is called potassium iodide. And our catalyst, if we think of it in a way, kind of in our costume theme, this is gonna be our flash today. It's going to speed up our chemical reaction, so hopefully I can have a nice wah-ha-ha-ha moment after this and really get to feeling those mad scientist vibes. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put our potassium iodine into our solution here, and we're gonna see what kind of reaction we can get. So 3, 2, 1. Awesome, how cool is that? Now, I don't know if you guys can still see it, but I can feel it, as we've actually got a ton of heat that's coming off of our science experiment here. And I know you guys probably know the name of it, but to keep my mad scientist dreams, this is gonna be our cool, ghoulish slime. One of the cool things about this, guys, is y'all not only saw that catalyst work like the Flash, he went super, super fast, but we also got this beautiful foam. Now, because I'm wearing my gloves, I can touch it, but if you remember, we did put in our soap solution, and that soap actually captured all of the little oxygen bubbles that you guys can see in there, all of those little sparkles and shines. That was all of the oxygen thrown away from our hydrogen peroxide. And it does it so fast that it actually shoots the oxygen off, and they rub against each other, and that rubbing against each other is what creates that exothermic reaction, that heat produced. Alrighty guys, well thank you so much for joining me for this October's virtual Coffees and Cuties. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and of course remember to come visit us here at the Discovery Center. We're open Tuesday through Saturday, 10 to 3. That includes our new exhibit, Maker Metropolis, and our outdoor park where you can see our dinosaurs that we have. We also would love for you guys to check out our virtual learnings that we have, as well as our Facebook and YouTube page for more science activities that you guys can do at home. Once again, we'd also like to thank the APDO for sponsoring this month's Coffees and Cuties.